Hello Booktubians, today I'm going to be discussing the eras of Wheel of Time. I made one for Dresden actually a while ago, but this one's going to be for Wheel of Time. It is going to be spoilers for the entire series, so click off if you have not finished or read the series. So without further ado, here is the eras of Wheel of Time. The first era I'm going to label the tutorial level, or the Hero's Journey Classic. It is, as you know, each of these books have pretty much identical plots, with it beginning with something where the main characters have to separate and go off on their either together or on their individual adventures, and at the end they all come together in a very convenient, sometimes explosive manner, and finish off the main plot with killing Balsamon for the first time, second time, third time, or whatever. And a lot of people, would say that these are the weaker books. I personally love Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn very much, even with all the other books taken into consideration. Eye of the World, specifically, has probably the most flaws, in my opinion, because it has a lot of the, I think, a lot of people call them Eye of the World isms, where it's like you can tell Robert Jordan hasn't ironed out every single of his details and kinks in the world building, but that's fine. It's charming to go back and reread and see how it all ends up much later. And also the prologue is one of the best, I would say, just because of how much you can discern from it on a reread. This era, I would say, is kind of it's homey and it's also treacherous, because a lot of people will give up around this era when they're starting for the first time. It is, as you know, they're longer books. I mean, they're not the longest, but they are longer than most of the average books out there, fantasy books even included. And so to tell someone book 4 is where it really picks up, it's a hard ask. So definitely it has its ups and downs, but I would say the biggest things about this era, the things that I love the most, is you get some very charming scenes with Rand, Mat, and Perrin before they kind of rise and ascend to power, so to speak. You get some later on as well in the other eras that I'll go into, but this one is they know nothing, next to nothing, as to what is to come in the future. And I remember my first time reading the story, and I was having a blast even with all its bumps in the road, so to speak. And I think this is kind of these books are the last time you will feel completely lost in the world, because the next era is, I'm going to call this Peak Fantasy Era. Peak Fantasy Era is my favorite era of Wheel of Time, which is books 4 through 6. So fortunately we do not have the trade paperback for number 6, so alas, Lord of Chaos is this block of wood. But anyways, this era features probably my favorite era of Wheel of Time, because this is where they all know the right amount of information, where you can see them making very intelligent decisions, sometimes very dumb decisions, but decisions nonetheless. They are no longer characters to be led on by a more experienced or wiser character like Moraine or somebody. They are making decisions. Perrin decides to go back to the Two Rivers. Mat decides to go with Rand to the Threefold Land. Rand decides to do this crazy thing with Asmodean and get him to teach him how to channel, because he's a male channeler. All of that is within book 4 alone, and in the later books, they just keep making decisions, and they have consequences after consequences, because while they know more, they do not know everything still. Which is not saying that the other ones, they know everything. It's just that this is kind of where the series for me had its shine, because as what is commonly known as the Slog is up next, which I will go into that a little bit more in detail. But I would say consistently 4 through 6 for people that love the series and the series is for them. 4 through 6 always gets the limelight, is what I've noticed, and for me it is true as well. This is also the series with some of the most iconic moments that isn't just relying off of 10 books worth of investment, book 11 is perhaps. This is these are just phenomenal books, 4 is my favorite, 6 is a top 3 at least, 5 is one of those things where you're great, but all the other ones are just that much greater. And that is why I would say this is like the best era of Wheel of Time. And also this is quintessential Wheel of Time for me as well, because they get their iconic looks in here. They get most of their iconic powers. I say most because obviously some people get kind of their full set of gear, power, whatever information much later. Huge status quo changes almost every book, with the Armelin seat getting overthrown in book 4, with Dumai's Well in book 6, with the Black Tower in book 6, and of course, let's see. I mean, I could keep going. So I am currently slowly but surely doing a reread where I kind of come back and forth. I read something new and then I come back to this whenever I'm in a bit of a slump to get me back in. I'm on book 4 right now of Wheel of Time, and I have been. It is just, I'm savoring every moment because this is where all the good stuff is for me. Not all, but you get my point. So, on to the next era. So, if the first era of Wheel of Time for me was the tutorial era, and the next era was sort of the action-packed fantasy, epic fantasy era, this one is, I would call it like the consolidation / expansion of power era, the Crusader Kings 3 era, the political intrigue era. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately because there are some really good moments in these books, and I don't think all of these books that are considered the slog by some people are really that bad or anything like that. But this is where you get the several chapters worth of Elaine point of views, where she is discussing the ongoing hostilities of Andor and its political climate. This is where she's taking a bath and having tea. This is, honestly, it's also, I will admit, I read these in 2020, right? And I have not gotten here to any of my rereads. So I remember these books the least. I remember moments from these books, but I'm going to be honest with you, there is a lot of dry moments here where you think that there are entire sections of each of these books where Robert Jordan just kind of didn't know what he was doing. I don't know if that's explicitly the case. It just felt like that. But also, these books have some of my favorite moments. I Am the Storm and frickin' The Crown of Swords, where he just kind of waltzes in and then says, I am the king now. I am the captain now. Also, you'll notice that I unfortunately do not have the trade paperback for Crown of Swords either, so brick. This is also the infamous Crossroads of Twilight, which is, fun fact, every time we go to a used bookstore, it's always this book that is on the shelf, ready to be taken after it was so woefully abandoned by its previous owner. But it's always this one. I don't know why. Like, did they read 9 books and then just kind of say, nah, this one's too much? But wouldn't surprise me, because it is my least favorite book in the entire series, and it is most people's least favorite book in the entire series. And I think that along with the drier sections of what I would consider pretty decent books lead to what many people call this the slog. I don't think the slog is from 7 through 10. I think 7 through 9 have good moments, but also a fair share of dry, not bad, but just dry moments. And book 10 is mostly dry with a few scatterings of good moments. So it's kind of tough saying that this is the slog. I also read these back to back. I did not read these in publication dates as the OG fans and when these were coming out did. I didn't have to wait years between these. I had to wait like a week or two for Libby to come in. So it's like, frankly speaking, I would not say these are the worst things in the world. I would say just that after coming from the high of 4 through 6 and then going into this for 4 long books, you can see why people are discouraged from this point onwards. Lower point in this series. But that's okay, because the next era of Wheel of Time is the golden conclusion. So, if the first era is tutorials, the second era is action-packed fantasy as they come into their powers and are kick-ass, max-level fantasy characters. And then the third one is the consolidation and expansion of power. This one is saving the goddamn world. This is the Avengers level threat. This is the Avengers movie you've all been waiting for moment. Book 11, last book that Robert Jordan wrote for this series. Goddamn did he give it his all. Because this book concludes so many arcs that have been started and continued for the last 4 books. Faile finally gets rescued. Perrin, summons the wolves, and they have this massive battle at Malden. You get the Prince of Ravens at the very end, which is a culmination of something that started in book 7 with Matt. You get, I mean, just so many tying up of loose ends. And because Robert Jordan, unfortunately this is his last book he wrote, he was actually intending to make these 3 books I'm carrying here that are all written by Brandon Sanderson. This was all supposed to be one book. Yeah. So this feels like the penultimate book. And it just, it's this, they constantly mention it. It's right around the corner. The last battle is right around the corner. And then, you know, if you read this when I did, yeah, no, the corner is pretty big. So, but that does not, I would not say that takes away from this book. Then the next 3, of course, are Sanderson books, which is just climax after climax. I mean, Gathering Storm, some of the best Rand moments in the entire series. You know, love him or hate him, or somewhere in between. He did a great job because the job itself was daunting as hell. I mean, who else, right? Maybe someone would have done a better job, but he did what he could. And let me tell you, this is like, again, return to form, peak Wheel of Time. The only downs here, of course, are certain aspects of Brandon Sanderson as a writer that he was not able to live up to as Robert Jordan, but that does not mean that it is completely ruined. I would say that we are back to saving the world, kicking ass. We are here to take the fight to the Shaitan himself. And in this are some of the most explosive payoffs that the entire series is sort of built off of, some of the highest highs you'll ever see. And it feels glorious after coming in from what I would say is the lowest lows that the series has seen in book 10 specifically. And it's really just this roller coaster of a series. And I think that's why I wanted to do like the eras of Wheel of Time, because I like categories, because I like putting them into little stupid buckets, right? And giving them stupid names. And these are very stupid names, but the reason I split them up like this is because I think the series does go through certain shifts in the ways it's written. And, you know, read the series. If you haven't, then I don't know why you're watching. But so I'm assuming you have. Readers will know that, like, you know, 1, 2 through 3, very like safe hero's journey. 4 through 6, explosive, action-packed, peak Wheel of Time. 7 through 10, most people's least favorite books are one of these or all of these. And then 11 through 14, which I would say it's return to form. And that is why I split them in that way. If you disagree or you agree or whatever you think, however you think it should be separated, if you think 11 should be part of the last ones just because it's one that Robert Jordan wrote, you know, you can tell that I kind of went off of what my own personal opinion of the quality of the books were, but a little bit of also how the plot is managed, with the first 3 and 4, and then 4, 5, 6 being vastly different plots from 1, 2, 3, and so on and on. I just like talking about it because I will take literally any excuse to talk about Wheel of Time and unendingly talk. But unfortunately, there is no beginning or ends to Wheel of Time, but there is an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed talking about listening to me ramble about the eras of Wheel of Time. It's my favorite series, basically. So, and I hope you enjoy whatever you are reading currently or not reading. But thank you for watching, and happy reading.